Echo 5, do you copy? Echo 5.
Echo 2, good morning. Nice of you to drop by.
Feeling alright, sir? Thought we lost you.
Right now, I feel like I can take on this whole podcast myself.
I know what you mean. Ready to send that transmission to Echo Base?
Yes, sir. R10, patch through.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions. Today we are going to be jumping into episode 5 of Andor, The Axe Forgets. Before we do get into it, I just want to remind you guys about our link tree down below, where we have our Instagram. If you don't follow us, check out our Discord. We have a great community there for Star Wars fans. And also check out all the merch that we sell with entertainmentearth.com, so you can check out all the Black Series and lightsabers and some of the cool t-shirts that we created down below. So make sure you guys are checking that link down below. But now we are excited to get into The Axe Forgets. A lot of cool things happened in this episode, I think. There were some kind of filler spots. After last week, you got me thinking about some of the things. And I was like, is it really necessary? Like some of the stuff with Cyril, which I think is a little prominent because we're trying to see his transition from Ferrix to wherever he's going next. And then this one, I completely agree. The Mon Mothma stuff could have done without.
Yeah. I mean, first off, let's talk about the title of The Axe Forgets.
Oh yeah, the Zimbabwean.
Yeah. That's deep. You know, the person who hurts another forgets, but the person who gets hurt remembers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if that's not some kind of foreshadowing, I don't know what is.
Dude, I know. And especially, oh my gosh, I feel like Andor is making a lot of great friends in this episode. He seems to be clicking with everybody, especially Skeen. Skeen seems like they're going to be like the best of friends by the time this is over.
Even after watching this episode again and having seen all the other episodes, I'm still on the fence about him. As I'm rewatching it, I'm just like, I'm not. Something just seems off, and you know, his maybe not true intentions, but his issues come to light more in this episode, which was good to see.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Because I remember the first time I didn't catch a lot of his mannerisms, and this time I was paying a little bit more attention, and he's just not a very trustful guy or trustworthy, because they always say the person that's the most suspicious has reason to be suspicious because they're looking at themselves thinking people will do the exact same thing that they would.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of see this guy's like super suspicious. Like every other character or every other crewmate seems to be handling Cassian very well, except for Skeen. He's the most sketchy out of all of them. Like, I trust the Imperial spy over him, because at least the Lieutenant Gorn seems like he's actually on track. Yeah, Skeen seems like he's got something going on.
Yeah, he does come across as very keen for this whole thing to win, and you know, for someone to be brought in at such a late stage, you know, we've said it before, you know, I'd be distrusting of the new guy. You know, it's just a matter of human nature, really, at this point. You know, because he was the one that said about the Axe Forgets as well, so he's clearly been hurt by someone. We just don't know who or what yet. And as the episode carries on, we find out really more about what not what he's been through, but you know, you see glimpses as to why he's more distrusting than the others.
Yeah, he does have a distrust of the Empire, and you can kind of see there's something deep in there that's causing him to be so skittish. Because everybody there has an issue with the Empire. And so you got this guy that just was tossed on, and it's like, okay, why should we trust him? What's your deal? Why do you hate the Empire? And I mean, you got to look at Cassian too, because Cassian's also being very discreet on everything. Like, Nemec is sitting there, like, telling him about the thought machine of the Empire, how it's like, oh yeah, all these atrocities are covering up other things, and they're making us so reliant on the Empire. And so it's like, well, what do you believe? And then Cassian's like, oh no, not saying anything. Like, anytime that they try to dig more into his character to find out who he is, he's kind of very deflective on responding.
And the fact that he's still using the alias name as well.
Clem, yeah.
Yeah, so nobody knows who this guy properly is. And again, it kind of comes to a head in a way where we see Andor kind of revealing a bit more about why he's there. And it's for one thing only. He's being paid.
Yeah, I thought when he finally came out and told everybody about that, I think that was kind of a crucial moment, because I think he realized he needed to. It's like, okay, guys, I'm sick of being distrusted. So you're right. I'm not who I say I am, but I'm here to get paid. I'm here for the money. So you don't have to worry about me. Like, I'm taking the risk too. Don't worry. Which, I mean, is true. Like, you're getting paid. It's like, all right, it's good enough reason for me.
Yeah.
Because he wants his money. He's gonna do it. He's gonna survive. He's not gonna turn on us.
Yeah, he's there for one thing and one thing only. He doesn't care what it is that he's doing. He just wants the payment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's. I found this episode very back and forth. It was better than, or majority of it was better than last week's one, because I really was not. I really felt like last week's one was a filler episode. This one, the Andor story was good. You got to see more of the final stages of the plan being put together, and when they called in Cassian to try and figure out how to weigh the stuff that they're stealing, and Andor's just like, you have no idea what you're doing, which kind of made me think more that's why he revealed that he's just being paid, because this dude knows something about what he's doing. The others have no idea who he is, but he has to reveal something for it to kind of go well.
No, that's definitely, because I had noticed that too. Because like I wrote that down in my notes. He's like, you guys are a bunch of idiots. Like, you want to pull this ship with the payroll on it, but you have no idea how to get it out. And you've been planning this how long? And okay, it's like, what would you guys done if I wasn't here? And so it's cool that we get to see a little bit more of why Luthen chose Cassian for this specific job. Because he's been watching, and they haven't been able to pull it off for months. And so, what were they missing? What did they need? And apparently, Cassian's experience was all that they needed for this to be at least planned properly. We don't know if it's actually going to work, but we'll see.
Hopefully, it does work. But on the Mon Mothma side, why just why? I mean, it was interesting to see the color palettes that both her and her husband were wearing. Mon Mothma going for the lighter colors, which in cinema stereotypically symbolizes good, whereas her husband was wearing the darker colors, which means
bad.
Yeah. So it was interesting to see that side of things, that they are on opposing sides, even though it's not been strictly said as such. You know, you can tell more and more that they are on opposing sides. And, you know, being introduced to Mon Mothma's daughter.
Oh, what a brat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd slap her all the way to Tatooine if she behaved like that. I don't condone violence on children, by the way, just saying. But no, she was really, you know, I mean, kind of like a typical teenager, really,
mm-hmm.
which makes sense, you know, typical teenager. But again, I don't think now was the right time to have that inclusion of the character. It just felt like there was one too many plot threads in this episode that had nothing to do with the episode.
Yeah, because I mean they tend to do that a lot, where they'll throw in a bunch of like filler stuff that's slowly building up to something that's going to happen later. Because I see what you mean by all the different plot threads. Because they did have was it the one ISB agent that's on Ferrix now, talking about headquarters in a hotel, which like, okay, cool. Mon Mothma and her disarray with her family, which I can kind of see why they did that, just because it led up to the end part where she's setting up that charitable organization, which I'm assuming has ties to the rebellion, and showing that she doesn't trust her husband enough to say it, and so it kind of shows a conflict there. So
yeah,
he might become an Imperial. He gives me those vibes.
I mean,
And
I would say so, you know, because we never see or hear anything about him again. After Andor, the series is done. You know, it's all, unless he's in season 2, which he may or may not be. We don't know. But at current time, you know, when we get to the end of season 1, he's still there, but we never hear anything again. So he might just be Imperial. He might go down the Imperial route, while, and you know, they separate with different ideals.
yeah, or he could be like one of the senators that just follows the Empire. It doesn't really become Imperial, but just kind of like it takes his money to support their ideas to push on other people. He could be one of those type of guys. But yeah, like I'm still trying to figure out the point of why we need to know about Mon Mothma's family and her falling marriage and her bad relationship with her daughter.
Yeah,
I don't see how that's relevant yet, but I mean, cool story.
it gives a character that had a couple of lines in Return of the Jedi more of a backstory, but is it really needed in this? Not. Yeah, that's not really.
No, and I think they're just trying to give her a bigger role, because we see her in Rogue One too, because she's got a spot in there, and then she's got a big point in Rebels, and so I think they're just trying to give some more character depth for her. And I personally would like to see more of her involvement with the rebellion, like sneaking around rather than dealing with her family life. I'd rather kind of see her talking to other Imperial or other rebels, or having some disagreements with some Imperial officers or something.
Yeah, and I just think maybe if she was to get her own series which focused on her as a character, I would watch that, because again, I'm interested to see, I want to know her personal life and why she's gone down the route of the rebellion.
Yeah, more dinners with her husband.
At the same time, I don't want to watch it in a different show.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
Or if it was to be in a different show, make it kind of like a more central point to part of the plot. Don't just have, the last episode and this one suffered from it quite a lot, with the multiple plot points and random scenes inserted that don't really mean anything.
Yeah, because there's some of the scenes with Cyril I could have done without, Like, they could have just stuck to the point of him just eating Cocoa Puffs with his mom and her berating him and saying, we'll get you another job, blah, blah. Okay, cool. They jumped to his character a little too much, and it just seemed like they're discussing the same thing in each path.
Yeah, because nothing happened with Cyril in this episode, so it was kind of a non point. It wasn't necessary to have him in. I'd say, at all. To be fair, in this one, it's good that he was, because we got to see more of his family life, but at the same time,
and how broken he is from his failure.
Yeah, but again, that could be sorted out in a different episode with that as the main plot point.
Not wrong, but his mom is actually pretty funny though. I feel like she's a little too hard on him, but
yeah.
But I did find their interaction very, very interesting, because I'm trying to decide their relationship, because they seem like they're close there because he went to his mom after he failed and he lost his job, and then he's also saying, well, you could have come visit me anytime, and she's like, well, an open invitation is not an invitation at all, trying to make an excuse of why she didn't visit him, and then just kind of like berates him about being a leader, and it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll get you into something else. Maybe police work's not your thing.
Yeah, because that's one of the things, because we don't know how he got this job in the first place, and if it was through his mum or the mysterious Uncle
Harlow.
Yeah, if that's backfired, then I guess there would be a bit of disappointment, because she obviously doesn't want to see her son fail, but at the same time, when he's got to be what, around 30, I guess.
I'd say.
A 30-year-old,
late 20s, 30, yeah.
Yeah, going back home to live with your mum because you messed up. That's not. It's. I can kind of see where the disappointment would be coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because no parent really wants their child, no matter of around 30 odd, going to live with them at home again.
And I just looked at the actor. He was born in '83, so it's a 40-year-old.
Bit of a side note on the actor. I was watching a British comedy that used to be on called Bad Education, and he was in one episode of it, being an American and a teacher, but then for some reason he did a Birmingham accent, which was actually really well done. So it goes to show how diverse this the actor actually is.
That is true. But yeah, so 40-year-old moving back in with his mom because he failed. There we go.
Yeah. So she might be harsh on him, but maybe her intentions are seeming, what she thinks would be good intentions aren't coming across as being good. But what she wants to do is just get him back out working and living his life again, not wallowing in self-pity.
Yeah, but we also see that he's not done. Like, he may have failed, but he still is, because they showed him looking at a hologram of Cassian. And so he's still hung up on trying to solve this, to find him. And so I'm seeing his next step is going to be the Empire.
Yeah, and if we look back at what the title of the episode is and the meaning of it, again, it kind of adds that extra depth to it. So really, all these plot points, while they might not have much bearing on the series, the episode itself was so heavily into that singular point of that proverb.
And I'm pretty sure that's probably why they included a lot of these stories. Even Mon Mothma even her story is very on point with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point, that a lot of the episodes, even if we look back at the ones that we've had previously, a lot of them are based on things that are within that title of the episode, and it is quite on the forefront with this one. Once you know what that proverb is and what it means, you can see it more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Luthen and the inclusion there.
Oh,
He
yes.
he was very shifty and wanting to make sure that everything was covered off. And again, you can see now we understand what the title means. We kind of can understand why he is being so shifty.
And he's starting to worry a lot
Yeah,
because he wants this to go so well, but now he's concerned if Cassian was a good idea or not.
yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I guess because he's not seeing Cassian at the moment. He's not really. We don't know if he's clued into what Cassian's behavior is like at the moment on, about to do the heist. But Cassian himself is a very loose cannon. He's single-minded and has this objective goal, but he doesn't play well with others. And I think that might be the reason why Luthen's a bit more concerned with him, because he's basically thrown a live grenade in a box full of grenades.
Which actually goes on point to something Cassian actually said, because right when they're marching towards the base, that's when they have like that huge scuffle, and I found it very interesting because Skeen takes the kyber crystal, and that's when they start there and to actually have a little fight right there.
Yeah,
And that's when Cassian reveals who he was, and he kept saying, he's like, you know what, they're gonna pull this before I got involved anyway, so you guys can be afraid or whatever, but you're not. If you guys call this off, you can't put it on me. It's always the day before is when nerves are high, and so we can kind of see that with Luthen, that his nerves are starting to get really high because the heist is about to happen the next day. And so usually that's when people start to question or start to doubt their decisions. Like, okay, was this a smart move? Is everything going to go the way that we've been planning? Should we pull out? Should we? It's like, oh, it's too late. The gears are already grinding.
Yeah, so we can't go back now. What's happening is happening.
Then his assistant's like, well, tomorrow night at the same time, this is going to be all over anyway. So just relax. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, just let whatever happens happen, and the world will still keep spinning one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like an oddball group of people. You got a Imperial lieutenant that is willing to turn on his soldiers to help this group. You have someone that's just a fearless, tough character. Then you got a guy that's big with their technology, and then you got Skeen, who I'm not exactly sure what he's doing, but it's just such an oddball group of people that.
If you look at the rebellion before the Battle of Yavin, you can see that even there, a ragtag group of different people is just on a bigger scale. And I think we're noticing this more now because it is just a few people. But I really like the fact that we got to know a bit more of the backstory on the lieutenant and why he's ready and willing to betray the Empire. And
That is true.
was a bit emotive, falling in love with a woman whose land got taken away, and then she got taken away. That's, what a way to keep people in line.
I'm assuming she was killed by the Empire. The Empire killed her.
Well,
because he got demoted.
That's how I read it as well. Without looking too much into it, it did seem like the Empire did kill all of the villagers, because we don't really see many native people on the planet yet.
Well, I mean, they did get driven south, but the way that I kind of read it, and just knowing how the Empire is and how cruel some of the higher ups are, they might not have liked Lieutenant Gorn falling in love, and it's like, okay, well, as punishment, we're gonna kill her, and we're gonna kill all the villagers, and you're gonna get demoted. We're not gonna kill you or anything. We're gonna let you stay alive and suffer and take a demotion while you're at it.
Yeah,
which I think would be a strong enough motive to turn against the Empire. It's like, okay, well, you killed someone I love, demoted me. I don't like you guys so much anymore.
Yeah. I want to know why the full reasons why he was demoted, because it does seem connected, but at the same time, could it have, would it have been as simple as you can't be in love with a native, with one of the natives, you have to follow our rules completely?
Mm-hmm.
Or was, did he do something that would have caused the demotion, i.e. kicking off about trying to move all the natives?
Mm-hmm. Which also is very interesting, because we get to see a little bit more of Lieutenant Gorn. We get like some scenes with him where in the beginning I thought they were kind of filler, but then the more that we got to see his character, you get to see that he's kind of he's too soft for the Empire. Because it even gets to the point where, what if he was supposed to kill the villagers and he was the reason of moving the villagers down? Maybe that's what caused this demotion, for not being tough enough when he should have been.
Yeah.
And then we see him yelling at these guys for target practice, and then they mention something, and then you see his tone change and he becomes very pensive. And then it's like, okay, well, this needs to be done by tomorrow. And then you get later in the episode when he's talking to the two recruits, he's talking about painting a wall that should have been done already. And then he starts walking away, and his troops see him as somebody that they can speak to on a personal level, which you normally wouldn't see that with an Imperial officer. You'd be like, oh, I'm not saying anything personal, but they're like, oh yeah, everybody's demoralized here. We're so close to this great meteor shower and we can't even watch it, and you want us to paint a wall. And then he changes his tone and he's like, okay, well, I see your point. You guys can watch the shower, the meteor shower, and then have the wall painted the next day. I mean, that can be part of the plan too, because I'll leave the facility empty for the heist. But at the same time, you can kind of see it's like he heard what they're saying. It's like, you know what, I'll accommodate you.
Yeah.
So I didn't see him like any Imperial officer that we've been introduced to in the past. Kind of gives me a callous vibe.
Yeah, I am definitely getting that kind of vibe as well. Which is he is an interesting character. I mean, to be fair, all of them, are really interesting for their own,
especially Nemec.
Yeah.
Nemec cracks me up.
I mean, I still don't like the fact that there was too many plot threads in this episode, but we all know that it will lead up to something bigger. But as the episode goes, it was good. There was one bit I didn't like in the episode. One bit. And it was the CGI of the water when the TIE fighter was flying up to the dam. And it just did not look right.
Yeah, that I did notice that for a show that has like such a high budget and like everything in the like the way that they filmed everything has been very pristine, and then you get that shot.
Yeah, and because it was such a close up of it, they could have just spent a little bit more time on it. But
Water's kind of a hard thing to CGI though.
Yeah,
I'm impressed that CGI has gotten as good as they've gotten with it, but definitely very interesting on that one. I did like seeing the TIE fighter though. I thought it was kind of cool. They're doing like their little march thing. I
yeah,
like that we did get some background and showing that they're actually taking time with the characters, like showing okay, these are just a bunch of characters. They're gonna do this heist, and they're gonna succeed because they already know what to do. It's like no, no, no. They're still training the day before, going, we need to walk like Imperials. And Cassian even sees how inexperienced they are because one of them's left-handed, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa! You're trying to get into an Imperial facility, and we got the left-handed guy on the wrong side. He's like,
no,
that's gonna throw us off immediately.
I was just about to say this point. um,
Yeah, go
because
for
it was very standoffish as well. That they were like, no, we're doing it my way, and Cassian's like, yeah, but, and then if it wasn't for another, for the question being asked as to why, like it would, we wouldn't have known. But Andor knows, and again, that adds to the secrecy of his character, and he is very much an onion. That he's got layer upon layer upon layer of different character traits.
Yeah, I mean, because he's been in he's this isn't his first heist. Like he's stolen the star navigation system, so he's done stuff like this before. So he knows procedure, and so he wouldn't have been able to pull this off if he didn't have the experience. And so it's good that the rebellion is getting a character like him or a person like him, and I can see why he becomes such an important character later on when we get to Rogue One, is because his experience and the way that he thinks and the way that he sees things is very valuable to the operation. Like
Yeah,
honestly, if he wasn't there, I would expect these guys to fail
yeah,
or
and
maybe succeed very harshly.
I think without Andor being there, they would have failed before they even got to the front door, and that's
Just
just,
with that whole march.
yeah, that's a dead giveaway straight away that they've no real idea what they're doing, and then add to that the fact that they don't know the weight of the payload and how to calculate it.
Or even how to get it out of there.
Yeah, because they were very standoffish with Cassian when he said, "I'll fly it, I'll fly the ship," and they were like,
Oh,
"No, you're
dude,
not."
yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fly the ship."
He's like, hey, all right. So you're telling me you guys don't know how to get this out, and you're asking me how to do it. It's like you guys didn't even put any thought to it. It's like, okay, well, if you want to be successful, I've got to be the one that's flying it. He's like, I'm on the line for this one, so it's either me or I'm walking away. So he's like, I'm not sacrificing my life because you guys don't know what you're doing. He's like, I know what I'm doing, so this is happening. No questions. They seem to be very standoffish on any time he like brings up some points. It's like they agree with him, but they don't want to agree with him.
But again, it's probably because they have no idea who he is, and
That and
he was just left there, and they have to just accept that fact.
yeah, because it's only been a day, right? Since he's been there. Today that this episode would be his second day there, right? Or did time pass?
I think it's day 2.
I want to say day 2.
Yeah, because
maybe 3.
I think when he got there, they were 3 days. So in the previous episode, they were 3 days away from the heist.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
And
so this is day
now
2.
it's the next day the heist is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you see a lot of distrust with like, if I had somebody like Cassian just dropped in, and then I'm moving his pack, and the way that he freaked out with Skeen grabbing it, that would have been some red flags for me too.
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy getting so upset about me just moving a bag? What's so important in there?
Yeah, but then with Skeen as well, he was told to do something completely different. So I can kind of
Oh yeah,
get
that's true.
that, there would be the distrust of, between Skeen and Andor, because one's touching the stuff of someone else, and Andor's there to get paid.
And it's not like it's the first time either, because Cassian went to sleep and woke up and all his weapons were gone. And Skeen's like, nope, trust me, everything's there. It's like, why are you going through my stuff, bro?
Yeah.
But they did seem to connect over one of his tattoos. What was it? The crate head logo.
Yeah, because they were talking about the tattoos that Skeen has, and Andor recognized them sort of straight away, which that raises a lot of questions as well, like how or why would he recognize them? But then it makes me want to know a bit more about Skeen's backstory and why he's so not
rough around the edges.
Yeah, and distrusting more so than the others.
I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. People that are generally overly suspicious are suspicious of people because they're afraid people are going to do what they're going to do to him. I feel like he's got an alternative motive, and he's kind of like, I have to share my cut with this guy. I've got a plan. This guy's going to destroy my plan. And it just becomes a huge issue.
Yeah.
Because he's probably been planning something different, and Cassian coming in is throwing a wrench in everything. And so he's like, okay, well, because as he talks to him later on, it seems like he's kind of poking to see if Cassian is someone that's up for himself or if he's actually there to help. Because if he's someone that's up for himself, then if he's planning on stealing the money, he wants to make sure he's friends with the right guy.
Yeah, he wants to get his cut, one way or another.
Mm-hmm. And then speaking of like multiple plot lines, I liked that we did get a little bit of Deidre. I think that's her name, or Deidre.
Yeah.
I actually found her part necessary and very interesting. I actually found everything that was going on in her less than 5-minute arc in this episode had a lot of weight.
Yeah, I think that's the one plot, aside from the planning the heist, that I would have happily kept in, because even though it was very short, it had a lot to say for it.
Got a lot of planets mentioned. You got Osnian, Fondor, Jakku, Kessel.
Nice mention of Jakku as well, which was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they got to tie these to the sequel somehow. They got to get fans familiar with it, I'm assuming. So, because a lot of fans are like, "Oh yeah, they're just going to redo the sequels, blah blah blah." It's like, well, Mandalorian, Andor, like they're including a lot of stuff that we know that we're familiar with from the sequels to be able to do that. And so it's kind of slowly integrating fans to be just like, yeah, the sequels are there. Get used to it.
Yeah.
So we'll introduce Hosnian and mention Jakku, and it's like, okay, you guys know what those are. So we'll toss those in. But it's also cool that they're appealing to people that have been longtime Star Wars fans, because we get the mention of Fondor.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how many people know or how many long-term fans we have, but in Legends material, Fondor was actually Imperial starship facility where they built the Star Destroyers and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see that they're kind of pulling that in very subtly here. Not giving us much background. They're just like, oh yeah, Fondor, whatever. But it's very interesting on how they tie all those planets together.
Yeah, because I mean, they are seemingly random planets that they do list off, but it was good to hear them. You know, and I think with Dedra, you know, she can see, because she's quite lower down in the ranking list. She can hear more about what's going on, and she's paying attention, and she's now trying to get everyone else to pay attention before it's too late.
And she's got one person that is.
Yeah.
We got one person right here listening to her because she starts questioning herself. And the guy's like, no, you're onto something. He's like, don't give up. It's like, I see your vision. Because we got all these planets. It's like, yeah, all these attacks, they're too random to be random. It's like the rebellion is spreading their attacks to make it look random. So it's like, no, there's definitely something there. So it's cool because everybody's telling her, no, you just go back to your sectors and just do your reports, stay out of this, stop chasing after fireflies. And now she's got someone's like, no. It's like, don't give up. So she's starting to get people to believe. And so she's going to start getting more people, especially after this heist. I'm sure this is going to be a big point that's going to be put on her radar.
Yeah.
But I am very interested in seeing more of her character. Like I like her story a lot.
Yeah, and again, you know, I'd like to know more about her fate as well.
Yeah.
In a morbid sort of way for this one to turn, you know, because obviously, you know, we've seen pre-Empire, we've seen post-Empire, but you know, I don't know whether it's how Dedra's been played, but I want to see the actress doing more with that character. I'm hoping that she's in season 2.
I guarantee she will be. After seeing like the end of this season, because I don't think we see her fate yet, but we see kind of a little bit of a love interest happening, I'm assuming, so foreshadowing there. But I'm definitely expecting to see more of her in season 2. Her character is not going to be finished after this season.
I really hope that, you know, we do. And you know, this episode for me, like I say, you know, it felt better than the last one, minus all the, you know, plot points like Mon Mothma that still isn't needed. But I think, you know, that even how they're using the scenery still plays to the advantage of you know, of the episode, and it shows the budget that they've got for it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that, you know, we don't really talk about budget per episode, and I'm just trying to find out how much each episode cost.
So each episode, Andor had about 20.8 million.
Yeah, so we're talking like, you know, a lot of money thrown onto 45 minutes to an hour episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah, because they break this down. It's $12.5 million per episode for Mandalorian, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi had $25 million per episode, which actually surprises me. But that's probably mainly to pay Ewan and Hayden.
Yeah. That is a surprise, actually. Because
It wasn't as well received as
yeah,
Andor was, because Andor definitely looks like it had more money put into it than Kenobi.
but then when you think, they were literally on the Scottish Highlands. It wasn't a green screen or the
Mm-hmm.
the new technology they're using. So it kind of makes more sense as to why it was less, because it was more practical, less CGI.
And what does that say about filmmaking? Stop using CGI. Let's go back to the basics, because basics look better.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I just think every detail in this episode was really well done. Even the high sheen on Mon Mothma's car.
Oh yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah, that was like, you could tell that she's quite high up in the Senate, or a member of the Senate, because her car is glistening.
Mm-hmm. And they have a driver.
Yeah, yeah.
What's his name? I think it was Cloris or Clovis.
Uh, yeah,
Anyways,
one of those.
take
And
take us
because
to the high expressway.
the husband can never remember the name either, or chooses not to remember it, which annoys Mon Mothma quite a lot. Which, again, that shows the dynamic of their relationship.
And I think that's kind of what they're trying to prove with Mon Mothma, is that she's someone who cares about someone as little as a driver,
Yeah,
whereas her husband doesn't care about a thing, because he talks about her. He's like, "Oh yeah, tell me about your new foundation." "Oh, I didn't think you'd be interested." She's like, "Well, why is that?" "Because it's charitable."
yeah.
And he's like, "Oh," it's kind of like a slap in the face right there.
Because her husband comes across as a bit of a not a nice person, but at the same time, when he does try to show interest, he's then pushed away.
Yeah, which is very interesting. And I mean, there's probably a lot more back into it. Like, usually when it gets to that point, it's because maybe he's never shown interest before, or he's only showing interest because maybe he is being like trying to pull information out of her to find out what's going on, so he can find a way to get his way into it. Or if it's something that he doesn't agree with, or something that's suspicious, like a rebellion, he can sit there and snitch. But
Yeah,
we can't really tell his motives because the guy seems like a snake. But he does also seem, the character does seem very, he did actually seem very interested in the Foundation.
yeah. I do think seeing a bit more of the family dynamic is good, but I also think maybe not have it in so many episodes, which is that's my biggest gripe over Andor as a series, is that there's just too many different plot points in per episode, that if you compare it to the first three, we never really had that many. There was a lot of flashbacks and a lot of character backstory, but we never had the multiple jumping across to the different characters. But now we do.
As you were saying that, uh, talking about like multiple episodes, like her family life, it's actually interesting. And you mentioned like all the characters. It's like we see Cassian and his mom, Cyril and his mom, Mon Mothma and her husband and daughter. It's just whoever wrote these seems to be very interested in family life. So we're getting like all the characters' family life and their interactions. And I just thought that was kind of a funny little tie. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I have noticed it, and I didn't think much of it until you literally just said it. But it makes all of these characters more human,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And when we see Cassian in Rogue One, we have no idea who he is and why he's, so moody, or what he's been through. And as the series progresses, with the relationships that he's had, we understand more and more why he is who he is when Rogue One happens. And with Cyril, we can see the disappointment on his face and his mother's face. And in this episode especially, when his mother's talking about other prospects, it's like, okay, family is a big thing in these storylines.
Yeah, because we kind of get a little bit of Cassian, like his parents or step parents were scavengers, and so he kind of has that mentality on him, because he's scavenging for parts and sneaking into Imperial Place and grabbing like just pieces of ships. You see him working on ships, so it makes sense why he knows how to fly a ship. So that's his character. Cyril, we see that his mom holds him up to such a high standard, and he fails. It's like, okay, well, all right. Well, you have any prospects? No? All right, well, let's get your Uncle Harlow involved, because you're too good to fail, or you're just not doing things right. So, because she even makes that question, or that statement. She's like, "Oh, I made sure to talk about your failure with your uncle, and made him question, like, his failure was so deep that it. What's the word? I wrote it down because I thought it was very interesting. Where did I put it? Cyril? I think I left it at the top. I think I deleted it. It's like, your failure was so deep, it was educational.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a hit. It's like, okay, well, you made a stupid move, but hopefully you learn from it. And so you can kind of see why these characters are the way that they are. And they're kind of trying to do that with Mon Mothma, but I'm just not really invested in it yet.
Yeah, that's the one that kind of misses that mark. It's one that is good to know, but at the same time, it's not a necessity to know this. We don't need to know about her personal life, because I think because of her, so her little involvement in Return of the Jedi. And yeah, she was in Rebels and
Rogue One, implemented into a lot of the games. And for me, it's not even that. Like, she's such a strong character, or like, they want to build strong female characters, and this is one thing that frustrates me with movies and stuff, is like they try to over explain characters. Like, we got characters like Leia. Mon Mothma had just a scene in Return of the Jedi, and she's already the strong, prominent woman. And I feel them doing this family life is kind of destroying a little bit of her character for me, because we don't need to see this weak side of her. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And
I would rather see her in political settings and showing her struggle there.
Yeah.
And how she overcomes it there.
Yeah, I would.
Her husband, don't really care for him.
Yeah.
So I don't really care for the story.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think take out the family side and see her getting beaten politically. And
her struggles there.
If it's by her husband as well, then that can add to the backstory that way. Mm-hmm. But I don't need to see it in her home setting.
How it affects their daughter and their relationship. Yeah.
Because that's another sort of character that we'll never see again is the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It's we don't hear from her, we don't see her. Like, yeah, great. You've given me another character that I need to find more out. Find out about more. But is it one?
What's your importance to the story?
Yeah. Is it a necessity to have this character?
Yeah, because I don't mind them introducing characters, but there's got to be a point to it. Like, if you're writing a book or something, then it's like, okay, yeah, let's include these characters and delve more into it because it works more in a book setting. When it gets onto on screen, there's just some things that don't work quite as well.
Yeah, yeah, I that
So
is
I'm
probably the best way to put it.
so I'm really hoping that they move away from these and start doing more character development because they even did it to Luthen. Luthen, I thought was a strong, prominent character. And then now we see him all worried and kind of frantic and questioning himself. It's like, okay, who's this character? Like, what's his motive? Like, is he part of the rebellion or is he just doing this for money as well?
Yeah, and that would be a good storyline to have as a book, because when we meet Luthen in the series, he's not exactly young, and
Mm-mm.
I want to know more of his backstory and how he got to where he is now, and then maybe maybe that could explain why he was so nervous in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, big heist about to happen, so I can see it. I'm pretty excited for it though, because I
Yeah,
remember I liked the heist episode a lot, so I'm excited to get to rewatch that one.
yeah, it was high stakes, high emotions, beautiful CGI, which is, compared to that TIE fighter over the water,
Oh yeah,
this is, the next one is a heavy hitter. And it kind of, for me, it gets Andor back on track story wise to where it should
yeah,
be after the first 3 episodes.
yeah. Because I remember the next few episodes are very change pace,
Yeah.
so definitely pretty excited to see them. Um, so yeah, overall, really good episode and really good build up for what's going to happen next. So, guys, next week is when we're going to be able to cover it, and we'll catch you guys next week. So, may the force
Be with you.
always